Okay, Charlie, I have a few questions for you. I wanted you, I guess, to address this. I mean, there are only about 5 questions or so. You can add whatever you want to say. But these are the topics of interest to many of us Canadians, especially those who are newer to Canada. And the threat of and the bullying tactics of the Americans against Canada has really upset and unified the country. Now, here are the 5 questions I want to. The first question I had about the immediate impact of this current tariff hikes on Canadian export rates. At this point in time, it only covers 15% because there's a, I guess you call it the USMCA agreement, which protects 85% of all exports of Canada to the United States, and that's zero tariff, as I understand. But that is up for renegotiation in 2026. What is your prediction? Because I think this is going to be really the biggest flashpoint in the tariff war. What is your prediction? How should Canada mitigate the immediate impact from this instability and protect the economy and Canada?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Roger and Tess, good friends, people who welcome me and my family and my larger community when we need to come to Toronto. And I think this is a fundamental thing about what being Canadian is that sense of welcome, that we look out for each other. This is as serious as it can get. Let's not kid ourselves. Donald Trump is threatening our nation. He's threatening our sovereignty. He's threatening our borders. And he's threatening to use economic power of the United States to destroy our willingness to resist. That's the dark side. The good side is that they thought Canada we were going to be pushovers because we're polite, because we're quiet, because we don't threaten people the way Americans do. And they've been shocked at how determined we are. So this is a serious fight. Anybody who thinks that Donald Trump is going to sign a trade agreement with Canada is living in a fool's paradise. He will use the tariff wars like he's used it against every other country in the world except Russia. He doesn't want to tariff Russia, but every other country, he's using it to humiliate them and to make them vassal states. So my advice for Canadians is to stand strong, to be actually willing to push back with countermeasures, as Prime Minister Trudeau did. There's only 2 countries that stood up to Trump and went back with countermeasures, China and Canada. The European Union, I think, made a huge mistake. Keir Starmer, the UK, I think has been, useless on this. Canada has to be strong because when we come into Kuzma and the negotiations, he's gonna try and rip up the entire agreement that he negotiated. The only thing that's going to stop him is economic damage to the United States, and that economic damage is happening daily. Rising inflation, rising costs, their tourism markets are collapsing because of the Canadian boycott and the fact that the rest of the world is supporting Canada now and following through. So Canada just has to be strong. And I'll say this to Prime Minister Mark Carney. I know you're smart. I know you're way smarter than me. But you have to understand that Canada is willing to stand up at this point. We see the polls. Canadians will do what it has to do to defend our sovereignty, even if it means taking a serious economic hit, because it's the only way we're going to survive in a world of gangsters. So we have to stay strong. We can't bend. And we have to remember that the rest of the world is watching us right now. The world is watching Canada because they see that we're strong.
Thanks, Charlie. That was good. I mean, the message is being delivered loud and clear to everybody who will be watching this. Now, the second question I had is the creep towards authoritarianism or dictatorship of the Trump administration. It is alarming. Question I have for you, and you may not know the answer, but why are the Democrats staying silent for the most part? Are they calculating that by letting him loose like a bull in a china shop, expect an implosion? Are there no guardrails left in the American system to stop this from happening? In my view, it is a failing democracy.
What we're learning in Canada very quickly is no one's coming to save us. We're going to save ourselves. And anybody who thinks that the Americans will get it together come the midterms, again, is living in a fool's paradise. I just recently did an amazing town hall with Gwyn Dwyer, world-renowned expert on global conflict. And Gwyn Dwyer said he didn't even think there would be legitimate elections by the midterms. We see that they're already trying to monkey wrench the voting system. This is what authoritarian is. It is the attack on democracy. They don't believe in the rule of law. So where are the Democrats? This is the question. We thought, okay, well, Donald Trump can come in and he can threaten and he can bully, but they have the rule of law. Well, the Supreme Court's going along with them. They've decided that the president can be above the rule of law. Once you say that the president can be above the rule of law, you are no longer in a democratic nation. End of story. The Democrats, there are some very good grassroots Democrats, but as a party, they've been useless. And I was just meeting with a number of Democrats from the United States, and one of them told me, and I'm not going to say who it was, but they were advised by one of the biggest, most well-known Democrats, don't do anything. Just wait. Let it all implode. Fascism doesn't implode. Fascism has to be stopped. So the message to my American friends, and I talk to them every day, is that it's a lot easier to stand up to fascism and authoritarianism when it's getting started. If you decide to wait until it's entrenched, well, that's too late. So the Democrats aren't going to do the job. The American courts aren't going to do the job. The American media aren't going to do the job. That is in a way why the world keeps looking to Canada. Right now, we have been put in this position of being one of the countries that are standing up and fighting. So we have to keep holding the line because we believe in the rule of law and we believe in democracy, and we're not going to let fascism and authoritarianism come across our border.
Thanks, Charlie. Many of us, especially the newer Canadians, hear about this so-called separatist movement in Alberta and partly in Saskatchewan. But what we understand when now that Canadians are what numbers are saying, 95% unified and standing together against Trump. What do you think? Where's Daniel Smith and the separatist movement in Alberta? Does it have any chance of succeeding? What about Saskatchewan?
How is it that the minute that Donald Trump said that we don't have a right to our country, suddenly we had an Alberta separatist party pop up? How is it that the Canadian media are bending over backwards to talk to marginal losers who want to break up our nation, who want to commit treason? And we treat them as though they've got grievances that have to be addressed. And there's anger in the oil patch. I'm out in Alberta. I'm out in Saskatchewan. You are not going to find anyone in this country who are more passionate about being Canadian than people in Alberta and Saskatchewan. Do they like to fight with the rest of the country? Damn right. That's what we do in Canada. We love to fight with each other. But tell us we're going to break up our country, that's not going to happen. So there's a couple of things that we have to start talking about here. Why is it that suddenly we see a bankrolled group of treasonous traitors talking about breaking up our country, and we're not exposing that? And I would say to our national media, you are letting people down. You bend over backwards to give voice to a small minority who hate our nation. And this is, I think, one of the important things in understanding where democracy and national media have failed in dealing with authoritarianism, is that they all have to have both sides of the story. Well, if one side of the story is driving a false narrative of breaking up the country, they shouldn't get the same amount of space as the 95% of the people who love our country. That's just not on. So I will tell you that there's no way that they will be able to break up our country unless we are fools, unless we go along with bending over backwards, and unless we let online disinformation upend the voting system in our country, because that's the real threat. We saw it with Brexit. We saw it with Trump's election and the Putin gangs and their online bots. But as for the people in Alberta, the people of Saskatchewan, the people of Manitoba, and the people of Quebec, we can't be divided from each other right now. We are together as Canadians, and I'm as happy in visiting any community in Alberta as I am in any other part of Canada. Don't let what you're seeing in the media tell you that we're divided from each other. We're not. But Daniel Smith and Premier Moe and that crowd, they're Quislings. So let's just call them for what they are.
Well, thanks, Charlie. Now, going back to Canada's, I guess Canada has no choice but to has to reduce its dependence on American the economy. So we have to break down. They have to break down and I guess develop new strategies, and I think that's happening right now. We have the political will because there's a very strong support for the government. Now, breaking down the economic barriers within Canada, like infrastructure bill, military spending to regrow Canada's capacity, while the strategic way to decrease Canada's dependence on the US, the reality is this will only bear fruit in the medium and longer term. There will be a painful economic readjustment in the short term, I would think. How can this be addressed, or how should this be addressed?
I think Canadians are ready for their politicians to have adult conversations. We are seeing serious threat to steel, serious threat to aluminum, serious threat to auto. Those are manufacturing bases that if they hurt, everything else hurts. So we need to hear government say, listen, this is what it's going to cost us to retool our economy in order to be able to find new markets and to also defend national production. We're ready for that conversation. We have huge opportunities in Canada right now in areas we never thought before. I was over in Europe over the last 2 years meeting with Europeans. They understand that the Americans are no longer their allies, so they're looking for allies that they can count on. The problem is, of course, is that building new trade alliances with Europe is going to take some time. But the counter offer right now is the barn fire that is the United States and the chaos that is there. So we have goodwill in Canada. We have solidarity. The Americans are fighting with themselves. Our economy is not as weak as some would like to say it is and some think it is. But what it means is that we're going to have to take some serious looks at how we get our major industries through the immediate level of crisis and how we actually start to retool, to rebuild a national economy that is focused on the regions working together, working with our allies in Asia, working with our allies in Europe, working with democratic countries. And the American century is over. It's done. The American century was done about 2 weeks after Donald Trump was elected. So the longer we keep waiting for the Americans to get their act together, the worse it's going to be for us. And I don't think Canadians are waiting any longer.
Going into, I guess, the more of the, how do we, I guess what I call is, how do we stop the nonsense in America? If we're going to stop or slow it down, U.S. midterms are crucial, and this has got to be a priority. The question I have is, how can Canadians indirectly participate to influence results to change or slow down the trajectory of Trump's aggression towards Canada? The government cannot be seen to be actively involved in any movement, as it will be viewed as interference and a hostile act. This, I think, a role that you, Charlie, is well positioned to take on. What do you think?
Well, I speak to Americans every day. Everyday people in the United States. My resistance Substack is read in every state in the Union, as it is read all over the world, because people understand that we're fighting fascism and we're fighting authoritarianism. I think it's an issue that's bigger than the midterms right now, because the issue is that the Democrats are not stepping up. The idea that this is a pendulum swing is idiotic. This is a takeover of government. This is a takeover of democracy. It is a subversion of the rule of law. That's the reality we're dealing with. I think many Americans are understanding that. What gives me hope is there's a lot of really concerned Americans who are taking to the streets. You're not seeing it in national media, but they are fighting at local levels. They are getting active in taking back their democracy, just as we watch the right take our democracy from us by getting active at school boards, municipal levels, regional levels. The right were on the move continually while we thought everything was going to be fine. Well, now we see in America progressive people doing that. It's going to start at the grassroots. It's not coming. You know, there's no Bill Clinton who's going to come in. There's no Barack Obama who's going to do the right thing. It's going to come from ordinary people. And the other thing, and I'm going to end on this tonight, is that what gives me great hope is wherever I travel in this country, I see the decency and the goodness of ordinary Canadians. We are a nation of multicultural values because we believe in decency. We believe in the rule of law. We believe in looking out for each other. And we are deeply offended by the insults and the authoritarian meanness and threat that we're seeing from Donald Trump. And we are not going to put up with it, because the great thing is we come from a long line of fascist fighters. That's our story. So I am actually really encouraged right now by Canadians. I'm sometimes less encouraged by our national leaders and our provincial leaders, but I don't doubt that ordinary Canadians are ready to do the fight right now. And Canada can show the way. And we can work with our allies around the world, and we're going to beat these guys. We're going to stand up. So the thing is it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to panic sometimes, but suck it up. We're going to get through this, and we'll get through this by sticking to our values and never bend and never kiss that gangster's ring. That's why we are going to be true, north, strong, and free.
Wow. Thanks. Thanks, Charlie. That was a wonderful message.
Thank you, my
friend. We
friend.
will make sure that all of this goes out.
Thank you. Thank you.